Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be making a baby hat. I'm going to show you what the baby hat looks like before we get into the project. But the only thing I have to show this on is my baby doll right now. This is a gift for a friend of mine who's expecting a baby in the fall, and I really like the way this came out. I love the two different yarns together, which I'll explain what they are in the video. But I just thought I'd give a little sneak peek of what we're designing, and I actually do some decreasing in this video, so if you've never done that before, make sure you watch in case you want to add this technique to your next hat project for an adult or for a baby. Because if you can see on here, it's a little more flatter, you don't have as much bunching like I've done in other hats where I just did the gather bind off. So this is a technique you may want to learn in order to make some of your hats a little better. But sorry, this is the only thing I can show it on. I hope you like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe down below and hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos. I know it might be a little creepy that I'm holding a baby doll, but you do what you gotta do. To make this hat, you're gonna need the following. Obviously, a loom. This is a new loom I'm trying out. It's from Knitting Board. So I'm just going to show you an image of what the box looked like that I got it in. And I've never used this before, so this will be a new first time for me, so we'll see how it goes. I have a video where I unbox these and a different set of looms, and also some new looming tools. I'll link that down below in case you're interested in checking that out. But this one is the 56 pegs, and what is nice is it does say it on the back, 56 pegs with 3/8 gauge. So this is a loom we're going to use. And then of course you're going to need your looming tool. I'm trying out this one, which came from Knitting Board as well. It's a new one for me. It's supposed to be more ergonomical and easier on the hands, and since I have issues with my hands when I'm loom knitting for a while, I thought I'd try this one out. This one does work for me, it just matters how long I've been working on the project. So I had this one, and I've also used the ones that usually come in the pack, but this one works good for me, but I'm hoping this will be a slight improvement as well. But of course you also need your scissors, your crochet hook possibly, some stitch markers, and again, whatever looming tool you want to use, and of course the loom. And now let me show you what yarn we're going to use. So let's move these out of the way. The first yarn is just a simple red heart yarn. This is what I had in my stash of yarn. I'm trying to use through some of it, so I think you could probably still find this out. I don't think this is too old of a yarn. And it is called Gray Heather. It's a weight of 4. So it should work out pretty nice, and it's different than a normal baby hat color. The other yarn I'm using is this homespun yarn from Lion brand. It looks really pretty. It's super soft, and it's a little bulkier. So this will be interesting to see how it works up on this loom that's supposed to be for smaller gauge. But I thought it was really pretty. I'm actually making this for somebody, and these were the colors that we kind of settled on. So yeah, we're going to use this. And we're going to use our gray. I think those will look really cool together. So let's get started. Okay, I don't think I mentioned too, you're also going to want some sort of kind of row counter. This is the kind I use. As you see, it's actually more like a sports tally thing. So if you're looking for a different type of row counter, this would be a great one to kind of find, just because it's bigger than some of the other ones. And it's sometimes a little cheaper than the ones you can find for actual knitting, but you'll need one of these as well. So we've got our loom, and again, remember I have this set up. I put this on here to remind me where the start is because it didn't come with any indication on this loom. So I did a video showing what I did here, and I'll link that down below. But okay, so now we gotta do our cast on. This one I was hemming and hawing about what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to start with the purple or if I wanted to start with the gray. I decided I kind of wanted to start with the purple because I just like the fuzziness of it. Again, this is the homespun yarn. I just really like the fuzzy of it, so I thought this would be a great one to use for the cast on. Now typically with cast ons I end up doing the E-wrap cast on, but I thought I'd do more like a chain cast on for this one instead of doing my normal E-wrap one, just for something different. So we're going to create our slip knot. I hope I remember how to do this right. You can hide this later, the tail later into the project. That's what I usually do. So what you're going to do is when you have your tail with the chain cast on, you're going to actually go through the loop you have on there. Let's see if I can zoom in here so you can see. You're going to use your crochet hook and go into the loop you have and grab your working yarn. Okay, maybe this yarn is the worst yarn to use for this one. I want this color. It's gonna make me mad, so I'm gonna go in. We're just going to use our tool. The crochet hook's not cooperating for me because this is such silky. So I'm almost gonna pretend I'm doing like a purl stitch. I'm gonna hold my tail so it kind of keeps it stable. I'm gonna bring up this loop and I'm gonna put it on the next peg. Okay, and I'm gonna go through this loop with my working yarns. It's kind of like I said, a chain cast on, a crochet cast on. I'm just treating it as if I'm purling it. So I'm just going in and making my loop. Don't you hate when the yarn doesn't want to cooperate and you really want this yarn to be the one you use? So again, we have our loop, and I'm just going to place it on the next peg. And I think some people might work on the inside. I think this is just going to be fine working the way I'm doing. And I'm just doing like kind of like the purl stitch and working it on. So maybe this is a purl cast on instead of a chain cast on. Whatever way you're seeing how I'm doing it. So I apologize if I'm using the wrong terminology. But again, I'm just doing it like a purl. Make it a little easier. Bring that loop up and onto the next peg. And I'm going to continue this all the way around till I get to my starting point. So again, I'm creating like a purl and I'm putting it on the peg next to it. One more time, going through the loop, working yarn, turning it so I have a new loop, and placing that new loop on the next peg. So I'm going to continue going all the way around and doing this so you guys don't have to get bored, and I'll meet you when I get back to the beginning. Okay, we're on our last one that we're going to do. Again, going through, creating like a loop to put on the peg next to it. You don't know how many times I want to put this loop right on the same peg again. Tell you, when you train yourself to do it one way, oh, it's so hard not to do it the same way. Okay, so I got to do one last one so we connect these two, as you can see, because there's a gap. We need to connect those, so we need to do it one more time to get that connected to the starter peg. And this time, because there's two loops on it, we're going to just need to knit that over to lock it in place. Now again, like I said, the tail you can weave into the project after you're done, or if you want, you can start grabbing it, but I'm just going to wait and weave it into the end of the project. I think that's going to be easier for this type of yarn to worry about it after. So now what I want to do is I want to do like a rib stitch for the brim instead of doing like an E-wrap stitch. Instead of doing a brim where you kind of work down a little ways and then you bring the loops back up. That's another way people do brims a lot. But I actually been really liking the rib stitch. I think I like that as a brim. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that. Now, if you're able to remember that you're knitting a peg and then purling a peg, you don't need stitch markers. But me, I tend to be forgetful. So I definitely will be utilizing my stitch markers, which I've had for years. And I will be going ahead and just, and deciding which, am I going to knit the first peg, to knit the first peg. Now you have two options. With these ones I have, I'm hoping you can see right, I'm trying to make sure it's zooming in. With these, they connect, if I can show it right, they connect. So I can take them apart and put them on there, but sometimes I just like to lift up the peg that they're going to go on. Let me see. Like I just like to lift up the loop and then just place the stitch marker and then put it back on. Other people use tape, other people use marker. I mean, it's basically whatever is going to remind you that, hey, on this peg I'm going to knit, and then I'm going to purl, then I'm going to knit. So I'm going to go around, I'm going to place my stitch markers on, I'm going to place my stitch markers on every other one. Again, for this loom, because the gauge is so small, you can obviously see that the stitch markers do take up a lot of space. So I will maybe later on invest in like smaller ones that might be a little easier to put on here. So this is just what I have on hand. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place stitch markers all the way around it, and I'll meet you back at the beginning again. Oh my goodness, guys, it took forever to get these stitch markers on, a lot longer than normal. I have no clue why. I swear the stitch markers were on strike. I switched it to the all yellow ones because even though they still may be a little hard for you guys to see, I knew that if I did either my purple or my blue that I have here, that those would have been even harder to see against the color of this loom. So again, now with having these on, I know some people will be like, I can remember to knit and I can remember which ones to purl. I understand that. More power to you if you can, but I know that sometimes I can get distracted either by my child or by my cat or a TV show. So like having these on here will make it easier for me to know exactly when to knit, when to purl. So, but if you're somebody that doesn't need to put stitch markers on, I applaud you because I really wish I could be that way too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to knit on the ones that have the stitch markers and purl on the ones that don't. So I'm going to show you really quick for those that are new to this channel or new to loom knitting and don't know how to do the E-wrap knit or know how to do the purl. I'll quickly show you for a few times. And if you do know how to do it, just watch me for a little bit and I'll tell you what the next step is. So you're going to take your working yarn, and again, this is my starting area because I got the marker there. I'm going to wrap the peg, use my looming tool, and take the bottom loop over the top. Then on the next peg, I'm bringing my working yarn in front, okay, and I'm going to have my, see how I have my loop here? We're going to do like we did before with the cast iron. Bring our tool through, put the working yarn over, turn the loop so you have a new loop, and you're going to take this loop and you're going to place it on that peg. Give it a gentle tug. Do not pull too tight, because otherwise you'll make this harder to knit over. That's really important, is when you work on your tension. If you're new to loom knitting, it's really important to work on your tension so that you don't make it where it's impossible to knit some over. I've had that happen before. So then the next one, again, we got our stitch marker, so I know that I got to E-wrap knit that one. So I wrap it, I take the bottom over the top, and then I go to the next one, and that one's a purl, so I bring the working yarn in front again, okay, and then I go through the loop, put my working yarn over, turn it to create our new loop, and I take the whole thing off and I place that loop on the peg. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a little different angle. I'm going to have to figure out a different filming situation probably with this angle, but I like this yarn. I'm sorry if it doesn't show up on camera, but it's a super fuzzy yarn. Hopefully you can find something similar and like possibly a different color. So again, we've got our stitch marker here on the loom, or on the loop. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to E-wrap knit that. So we're going to wrap the peg and knit the bottom loop over the top. Bring the working yarn in front to do the next one, which is a purl. Go through the loop, bring your working yarn over, grab it, turn it, and so you get your new loop on there. Take the whole thing off, put the new loop on. So I'm going to continue doing that around the loom for this many rows for our brim. So go ahead and continue that pattern for this many rows, and then we'll move on to the next main body of the hat. Okay guys, we did our 4 rows using our row counter of the brim, which I kind of like. I didn't want it to be too huge of a brim. I really think this color is really cool. And now we're going to just kind of keep, I don't think I've ever done a hat where I did a lot of the rib stitch all the way through the hat, so I really kind of want to play around with that with this hat here for the baby. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to add the second color. We're going to add our gray in now. And what we're going to do is we're going to knit on we're going to do the same thing we did before where the stitch markers are. We're going to knit on where the stitch markers are, and we're going to purl on where they're not. But this time we're adding in a second color. So this time we're going to knit the purple and purl the gray. Just add a little different look to it. I think someone's done similar hats to this. I just never done it, and I really wanted to kind of have some fun and do a hat. So I'm just doing a little slip knot for my new color that I'm going to add on. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to plop it. Now because the gray is going to be purled, I'm actually going to put it like a step behind for right now, so that way it's not in the wrong place. And then when I get to this, I will end up purling that spot. So I'm just going to leave it one behind the start peg. So that way with this yarn I can knit this one, and then this will become purled on this. When we get around the first time, we're going to purl both the loops that are on this peg, but we're placing our gray there first, work our way around, doing the same thing, knitting where the stitch markers are in purple, and then purling on the non-stitch marker pegs in gray. So again, I placed my working yarn and my new gray color on the peg. Oops, came off here. Let me do that again real quick. And again, I'll hide all these stragglers in at the end of the project. So again, this is my gray. I'm placing it on the peg behind. That's going to get purled later. I'm going to tighten it just a little bit, so this will get purled when we get around to it. And now we're just going to go ahead, and again, it's going to be a little tricky. I haven't done working with 2 colors in a long time, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to knit on the stitch marker one in purple, then we're going to take our gray and we're going to bring it over, and we're going to purl on the one that doesn't have the stitch marker in gray. And again, purling, you just take off the old loop, put the new one on. And then again, we're going to place this behind it. We're going to grab our purple, and we're going to, we've already did that one, come over and do this one and knit. Okay, grab our gray, and do that one in purple, or pearl, sorry. Again, grab our purple, knit that one, go to the gray, and purl that one. That's all I'm going to do, working my way around the loom. Oops, made a little bit too big of a loop. Put that on. And again, when I get back to the starting one, I'm going to purl both these loops at once when I have to do that as a purl. So the fact that we have a purple and a green, we're going to carefully put both of those off and put the gray on. So we'll be doing that when you get to that one. But that's all I'm going to do until I hit a certain amount of rows, is I'm just alternating. Okay, I'm like I did this one. So I got to do a purl, or knit next. Yeah, I can't talk now, and knit next. And what's good is when you start doing this, you'll be able to kind of see the color on this. So in a sense, you wouldn't even need, because again, this is this one. So I'm going to go over to this one. And purl, and knit over. Now we're going to go ahead. Oh, that's why I'm troubled, because this one needs to be on the same side. So I got my working yarn both over this way. So again, I'm looking to see, okay, I need to do a purple now. Wrap that. Okay, I need to do a purl. So I need to grab my gray, bring that in front. And yes, you may get your yarn tangled, so every now and then just check to make sure your two working yarns are not getting too tangled up on the side, that you're able to go back and forth pretty easy. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm just bringing up whichever one I need next for the next spot and doing it. So that's all I'm doing, is knitting, E-wrap knit on the ones with the stitch markers, purling on the ones without, and gray. So purple on the knit and gray on the purl. So I am going to work this around the whole loom for this many rows, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, after completing the 11 rows of following this pattern where you're knitting and purling and alternating the colors, we're going to take off the purple and we're going to just stick with the gray for a little bit. So what I usually do is I just tie the purple to the gray. That's all I do. I try to keep it as simple as possible. There may be other techniques, but this is just the one that works for me. So I'm going to leave a tail, and again, I can work this tail in later. I'm just going to leave me enough of a tail to cut. Okay, I need better scissors, I think. I've had these scissors so long, I think they're going to start wearing out on me soon. So I move that. I grab the tail to the purple. Okay, and then I grab my new working yarn, and I just tie them two together, going as close to the peg as I can, but not where you're going to be like too tight where you can't knit it over. And I usually like to double knit. Well, that's not cooperating. I can't tie when I'm looking backwards. Okay, so then I'm going to just try tying it one more time. And you could trim it now, but I'm just going to wait till the project's done. I'll turn the hat inside out, and then I'll hide it and trim it and do all that at the end, because that's a little easier for me to do. So now that I'm stuck with, I have just the gray, I wanted to just do like a simple gray stripe around, kind of to mimic how the brim is. Again, we're going to hide this tail as well, because I really like how the brim is kind of on its own, and I really like, as you can see, the work we've already done, how that's coming through the loom. I think that looks really cool. It looks a lot better in person than it's probably showing up on camera, I will say that. So now I just want to do another like couple rows or so of the gray before we start working on taking this off the loom, which is usually the longer process. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove all my stitch markers. So you're going to first, step one is remove all your stitch markers, and then step two is I'm going to do this many rows of just doing the purl stitch around the loom, and then we'll move on to the next step. After doing the 3 rows of purl, we're going to start the process of decreasing this hat a little bit for the baby hat. As you can see, we got our nice colors coming through, and you can just start seeing where we started the gray. Now, I've never decreased a hat using purl stitch, so this is going to be a new thing for you and I. And I haven't decreased a hat in forever, so please bear with me. One of the things I'll say that might come in handy is possibly stitch markers, because I remember in the past, like, I needed sections. And because I needed sections, it's easier for me to, like, kind of put a marker where I want to decrease, if that makes sense. So, or not where I want to decrease, the section. Because this way I can count this as a section. And when you do it, if you kind of look at this as like a pie, and you're going to break it into 4 big pieces of pie, and you're going to work in a section kind of thing. That's what I did in the past. It seemed to work for this one hat, but again, I've never done it using the purl stitch, so we'll do this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place stitch markers just to so that I know what section, if that makes sense, so I know where I'm kind of working. And that's just they don't have to be perfect. It's just more or less of a visual, you know, for me. I mean, you may not need it, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't want people thinking, oh, well, I have to put a stitch marker there. No, this is just because Virginia needs it, because sometimes I forget. So if I look at this one, I'm going to go as close to across them as I can. Roughly, it does not have to be perfect. It's just more or less, like I said, for me to have a gate. I'm just trying to get the thingy to come around here. It's just so that I visually can look at it easier as a section. And then I can, so I have kind of roughly where they need to be there. It's not perfect. And then I'm looking at, like, okay, I want to divide in half. So I'll come over here and I'll be like, where's about the half mark? And we'll throw one here because it looks about the halfway mark. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not like trying to be too precise. It's just more or less so that I have an idea of where it's going. Come here, you little bugger. And I tried this hat while it's on the loom on the baby doll that I have, because I don't have a baby. So you'll see it on the baby doll at the end too. And that kind of gives me an idea. I tried to find a baby doll that was similar hat thing. And if you look at where I put this one, which is right here, it's going to be roughly the same spot. It may not be perfect pie. It's okay. Just like with real pies, you don't always cut them all evenly. Of course, me talking about pie now, I want pie. So comment down below what your guys' favorite pie is, since I'm talking about this in a pie form. What's your favorite pie? Alright, so now we're back to our beginning. We've got a stitch marker here, we've got our stitch marker here, we got one up here, just so we can look at the sections. And what I'm going to do, because again, I'm doing purl, so it's a little different than I normally do the last time I did a decrease. So I'm looking at my section, and what I want to do is kind of start in the middle of this one section. So here's my section right here. My thumbs are where the stitch markers are for the first section. I'm just going to kind of go into the middle, and all I'm going to do for now, because I'm doing a purl stitch, is I'm just going to take a peg and I'm going to move it over to the right, or to the left, sorry. I'm not going to knit it over or anything right now because I'm doing the purl stitch. When I come back around, I will purl this then. That's what I'm going to try this time, because like I said, I want to be able to purl it and I'm not knitting it over. So we're just going to try to see if this works for doing the purl stitch. If it doesn't, then I got to redo this hat all over. Then I'm going to move to the next section and do the same thing. Pick a peg and move it over to the left to purl. Get your butt over there. Okay, and then I'm going to the next section. Again, finding about a middle peg. I'm not being too precise, but a middle peg. Move it over. Going to the last section, picking it about in the middle and moving it over. Now when I go through, I'm only going to purl where there are stitches. I'm not going to purl this one because it's empty. So I'm just going to go ahead and do, get over there, you little bugger. Oh wait, I got to do the peg that's on. I forgot to do the first peg. Okay, so you do the first, and you're going to work your way around, and we're just going to do the purl only on the pegs that actually have yarn. Okay, we're getting to the peg that has the two, so we're going to test out this theory. We're going to purl these two together. I know I could knit it, or had knit it over, but I worry that that will mess up the look, so we're going to just see how this works with doing it this way. And then we're going to make sure the working yarn is in the back of the peg that's empty, bring it back up to the front, and continue going across. I said, if it doesn't work totally right, I have to do this hat all over again. But I think it'll work. I think it'll be okay. So this is a good way to test it all out. It's always good to try new things out. Just not good if you're a YouTuber that has to film it and you mess up. But we'll see. Or it's kind of worse, I do the hat over again. So, but I've never done it with the pearl, but I'm hoping it'll kind of give the same idea, hopefully, but we'll see. Alright, we're coming around again. And again, when we're to this one that has the 2, if I'm doing the pearl, or if I'm moving the pearl over, treating it as 1, and going behind the empty peg to go back into the front. Okay, and here's the next one that's done like that, where we have to do the same thing. And back. Okay, we're getting to the last one that we have to do it to. Okay, so here is our last one in this row. Okay, going back, back in the front. Okay. Let's just finish out this row. And then what we're going to do is we're going to decrease it again, which is going to be the same process we did right now, but we're going to be doing it on obviously a different peg, and I'll show you that in a second. Alright, so we're back at the beginning, and we're again going to look in our sections because we want to decrease again, and I'm going to look to where I had the empty peg, so the first empty peg. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to move this one over to that one. It's kind of like a moving over process. So like this is the empty peg. We're going to want to move this one over to that. We're going to work right to left. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're just going to take this off. Get over here, you little bugger. Move it onto that peg. And we're going to leave it alone until we go around again. So then we're going to go back this way. We're going to find our next one, which is right here. Again, we're going to skip this peg, go to this peg, we're going to go next to it, and we're going to move that over to that. So this one's going to go there. Okay, so we're just going to lift it up and move her over. Leave it alone, go to the next section. Again, this is our empty peg from before. We're going to go to this one, and we're going to go next to that one and move it over. And this will just have the hat fit a little less bulky at the top, but I do have to keep an eye on it, and then get them to this last section. I'm doing the same thing. Now go ahead and just do the same thing we did before, where we go around and we purl wherever we see that, and we leave these pegs alone that are empty. So that's all we're going to do again. Okay, we're getting close to where we have an empty peg, so we go behind it and we come back in front, and this is the one we have with the 2 loops, so we're going to purl them 2 together. Now we have our next empty peg, so we got to go behind that and come back in front again. Alright, here we go again. Got our first peg, go around to the back, come around to the front, and do these 2 together. Now I'll go to the back again, come to the front again, because we have to skip that peg, and we'll go around again and do this until we hit the next spot. And I'd like to take a moment to remind you, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and hit that like button and the bell icon to be notified of future videos. I know there's a lot of you that watch that haven't subscribed yet, and I would really appreciate it if you do. And again, if you like this video, it's really important that you help me out by sharing it on your social medias, because I am not able to share everywhere all the time. So if you have Twitter, if you have Facebook, if you have Instagram, if you have whatever, any other like streaming services, or not streaming, but social media services, I would love to have you guys share my work on there. It really helps my channel out in order to reach more people that I may not be able to reach. And what I think you guys find interesting is I do live in a pretty small area, and it still amazes me every day that I've got over 16,000 people that follow me. I appreciate it very, very much. You don't understand how much I do. So I do enjoy this, and I'm glad I'm getting back into hopefully a rhythm this fall. And I can't wait to see, feel free to go on my social media, like my Facebook and all that, and show me your work. I would love to see when you do a project that I've shown you how to do, what colors you've chose, how it's come out for you. So don't hesitate to share on my Facebook page for Simply Intertwined, which again, the links are down below in the description, so make sure you check all that out. And again, we're back to our next one, that we have the empty peg, and then we just got to go behind the empty peg, front to the 2 that have the ones that have the loop on it. And get our new loop on there. Again, we have another empty peg, so we go behind it and come back in front to skip it. Now this may not make the hat lay totally flat on top, but it will help take some of the bulkiness away you get than when you just normally cast it off without doing any decreasing. So keep that in mind. And if this hat ends up being a little too long, you could always remake it and decrease some of the beginning rows if you want. Like you can decrease some of the body that we did, the part that we did the 2 different colors, if you find that it's not quite fitting right on the baby's head that you want it to fit on. So there's always room for switching things around in case the baby's head happens to be smaller than what this is. It's really hard sometimes, I think, for us to make hats for babies, because it's really hard to figure out exactly what sizes to make, baby hats or whatever. And I always try to say from newborn up, because honestly, you can't guarantee what size head the baby's going to have. My kid was only 6 pounds 6 ounces, so their head size might be slightly different than a baby that's 10 pounds. So I like the idea of just kind of being able to alter it later. Like if you say, hey, this isn't going to work, well, add more rows, or use a different loom, or whatever, depending on the size that you want. Okay, we're coming to our last. Come here, you little bugger. Things like to fight me today. Okay, so that one goes on there. We have our empty peg, so we go behind it. Then we come back in front to do the ones that have the 2 on there. Okay. And then again, we have our next empty one, so we're going to go behind it and come to this one. Okay, and we are back to the beginning. If it wasn't one, it might create a hole. So that's the thing, but it may not be as noticeable because we're going to be like binding this off. Okay, so now we've done, now we're going to decide if we need to do any more. And again, this is what's kind of looking at in the middle. You can kind of see where we have our little bit of gaps, but I'm thinking this is going to work out okay for us, because now we're going to go ahead and decide, do we need to decrease anymore? And with deciding whether to decrease anymore, we're kind of looking like, okay, are we at the stage where we know we got to get this hat off the loom soon? Because if we do more rows, it's going to make it bigger, you know, longer for the hat. Or do we need to do one more decreasing row before we take this off? So, excuse me, what I'm thinking is I'm going to do one more time of decreasing before I take this off the loom. Which means I'm going to go ahead and go around, and here's my first empty peg that we did. And then we have that. We have our next empty peg, and now we have this. So we're going to go to this one that's not, or excuse me, that's got a peg. I'm going to go next to it, like we did before, and move it over. And leave it for the next time we go around. Do the same thing here. We got our empty pegs. Oop, I think I lost a loop. Good thing I noticed that. Get back on there. So we got our empty peg, this one, another empty peg. We want to make this empty, so we're going to go over here. And do the same thing, looking around at what we have and realizing we just need to move over, just like we did before. So we got our empty, so we're going to go here. And then we're just going to go around and purl. So, okay, here we go again. And behind and in front. Okay, so there we've done our decreasing, and then we've got, as you can see, our pattern coming through a little more, and you can kind of see where there's no loop, no loop on pegs and everything. So I think we're about ready to take this off. It looks like it's a good length. Again, I haven't made a baby hat in a while, so I'm hoping this will fit, but I think it'll work at least for a newborn. So we're going to go ahead and take this off. Okay, so now we're getting ready to take this off. So like I said, we're going to hide all these stragglers afterwards. So I'm going to do the drawstring bind off. I haven't done this in a while. I almost forgot about it a little bit. And what I usually say to do when you're doing the drawstring is you kind of, if you wrap your loom 2 or 3 times around gently with the working yarn you already have, I'm just kind of wrapping it around because I want to just not have to worry about stuff. So I mean, it's always better to wrap probably like 3 times around the loom. You probably won't need that. It's just a very loose wrap around. Then cut your working yarn. Okay, and then this way, your working yarn is going to be what you use to bind this off. So we're going to go all the way back to our beginning. Okay, and if I can find my beginning. Okay, and now all we're going to do with our working tool is work this yarn all through these loops. So we're going to go in, we're going to leave our first one on there. Excuse me, you're going to go through this and you're going to pull your yarn all the way through. Go to the next, pull it all the way through. And that's all we're going to do for this one. To take it off, we're just pulling it all the way through. And then of course we come to our first thing that didn't have any, so we work it behind it to get to the next one. Work it behind it and then back and front for the next one. And some people can take these off as you're doing it. I'm just choosing to wait a little bit before I do that. Guess I got tangled. Don't know what happened there. Oh. I do not know what happened there. I think I just lost a couple stitches. Oh, those are the ones that were knitted off. These are the ones that are knitted off, so don't be scared. I think it just didn't want to go through that one like it should. There we go. So all I'll do is pop some of those off. That's totally fine. They were bound off anyway. I bind it off anyway. I don't know. I think it just got caught on something. Sorry about that. Okay, really, yarn? Why are you not liking me anymore? Hang on 1 second. There's like this little knot in one of them, so I gotta be careful when I bring this one through, I guess. Oh. There we go. I do not know why it's acting up. Are you kidding me? Oh. Be gentle. Take it off the peg since it might help. Oh goodness. See, even professional loomers like us get messed up. Okay, so this is a loop that I need it to go through. So I don't know why it's being stubborn. This pattern, this usually works very easily. I do not know why this yarn is suddenly becoming very stupid. So let's try this again. We'll go gentle this time. Maybe I went too fast before. Okay, you're gonna come through whether you like it or not. Thank you very much. I tell ya, I don't usually have this much problem doing this. I don't know why it was being stubborn all of a sudden. So I'm just gonna go off camera and I'm gonna do this so that way I can have this at a different angle since it's being a pain in the butt. So all I'm gonna do is continue doing what I'm doing until I get to the last peg, and then I'll meet you guys back here. Okay, I'm on to the last couple pegs that I gotta go through. It worked a lot better when I was off camera doing this angle. For some reason the yarn cooperated. And I'm going to go back into the first loop too. That's still on there. If you've taken some of the pegs off, that's okay. You can always rejoin it. You can join it when it's off. But I kept all my stitches on the loom until I got back to the beginning, and then I'm just re-going back through the first one. Okay, and now I'm going to take all these off of the loom. All my stitches come off now. See, now it likes me. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and we'll turn this inside out, because we typically turn baby hats inside out before we do any, binding off. And then all you're going to do is take your working yarn and gently pull. And as you see, it will close up the hat. It's going to be a small hat for the baby. A little tighter. And then what I usually do is I work it in. If it cooperates, would be nice. So now, because I have all this tail left, I don't need it. I'm going to trim it down to what I need, which is probably about just maybe 12 inches or so, because I don't need all this excess now that I'm done, so I can get rid of that. And now I just have a more manageable tail. And again, I'm going to pull it tight. This is definitely made for a newborn. I know looks a little small, but it's definitely for a newborn. And then we're going to take our crochet hook, because I usually like to work it into the other side by doing a stitch. So I can get closer for you guys to see. I go into it and I grab the working yarn and I pull it through, just to help make sure I'm closing off that area. So then I'll come over to the opposite side and do the same thing, find a stitch or two, work the working yarn through it. Again, I'm just trying to close it off. And then over here and do another one. Now I usually like to put a knot or something in it. So what I do that's a little different is once I go through another side, because I'm pretty sure we've got the hole closed off, I'll come in here and I'll bring my working yarn through about halfway. And I'm going to tie it, because I'm going to take the new bow, like how I created 2 strands now after the one, I'm going to tie it. I usually tie it a couple times. Okay, and that should be pretty secure, and then we can just trim. And if you're doing a baby hat, it's always good when you end up doing like softer yarn, then you don't have to worry about it on their head as much. And then we turn it back the right way, and you can see that our top is a little flatter. So let me go back out a little bit. It's a little flatter than we normally have, and then we got these other tails we want to work in. That one doesn't have to be, but again, remember we have these other tails, so I'm just going to kind of work it into the stitches. Kind of bring it up a little bit. I can do the same with this. I can bring it up a little bit. I mean, just so you hide it up enough, and then you can trim it. So like I'm just going up a little bit into the project. And then if you kind of stretch out, you'll be able to see, like it shouldn't come back out. Like we're just going up a little bit more. And then once it's worked in a little more, you can just go ahead and trim it a little more, so it's not going to be in the baby's way. Go ahead and work this one in a little bit. It all depends again how long your tails are. Once it's worked in a little bit, you can go ahead and trim it more. And there we go. There is our cute little baby hat. So let's try it on the baby doll, and it should work for a newborn. Here is a closer up look of the hat when it's all finished. Again, it's coming out a little blue on camera. Hopefully it comes out purple. Through my lens I'm seeing it more blue, but it is purple and gray, and you can really see how the pearl and this E-wrap kind of work, and how the top, if you look from the side, is actually a little flatter. And to give you a comparison, this is an older hat I did, and you can see how it looks a little more bunched, but this one you can see it looks a little flatter. I'm going to show you it on my baby doll so you get an idea of what it looks like on a baby. Hi guys, thanks for watching. I just hope that you did like this video. As creepy it was, it's kind of growing on me to have it on this baby doll. The baby doll doesn't have a name. If you want to share some name ideas down below, go ahead. I got this because I thought it might help me display baby hats a little better, because I felt the size of this doll was a little more realistic than other baby dolls that I had available. I felt the head size was a little more proportioned to a newborn or a slightly older child. So I would definitely gear this hat towards a newborn or older, depending again on how big the baby is. But I really like how it came out. I like the flatness on the back. So if you did like this hat video, please give this video a like and share it with your family or friends that are into crafting and making baby items just like you. I would love for you to do that, because the more times people share my videos, the more people that can come to my channel and learn how to do things as simply as possible. Have a great day, everyone.